Well, refitting your disc backing plate is literally a case of the reverse procedure. There's nothing complicated to this, just replace those 3 bolts. Okay, time to clean everything up then prior to repacking the bearings with grease and readjusting the bearings. Now you probably see in there, I like to keep my circlip for the speedo cable in the bottom of the dust cap while I'm going through the process. You need to put it somewhere else temporarily now. It's a bit of a messy job, hence the latex gloves and lots of paper. We give this a good clean out because we can put some spare grease in there just in case of roadside emergencies. Okay, and then the clamp itself, and it's really important to make sure, again we're relatively lucky here, that the Allen key portion there is nice and clear so that you get no slippage in there, but you're just looking to get rid of any old caked on grease and any dust and grime. Now, as we saw when we took this bearing off, it's in very good condition. We don't need to repack this with grease. We just make sure there's no dust on there, and we can just literally apply some fresh grease on there. Now, if this grease was very old and very sticky, and look, it's very obvious when grease is old, we would use some brake cleaner on there, maybe an old toothbrush, and literally get rid of all that old grease. But what I'm just about to do is what you do to repack bearings anyway. Put it on your finger. Make sure the finger you're going to be applying the grease with is clean. This is Just Kampers general purpose grease here. So we put it on there, you smear it in nice and deep, and then with the thumb of the other finger, just roll it round a little, and you're looking to pack that up nice. Okay, with the hub carrier itself, remember we've already inspected the bearing racings. Everything is looking really good here. So we just give this a clean. Now you may find that the grease in here is very dry and very hard, and you might need to spend a little more time cleaning that out. But you can see right inside there is actually a hollow in there, and I don't like to be too stingy here. I like to put a good dollop of grease in there. So with the Just Kampers grease pot, we push down the outside and we get a nice big lump of it. Just put it in and then smear it all the way around the inside case. And then finally we'll make sure there's a good application of it on the bearing races, and it is absolutely crucial at this point that you don't get any dirt or any grit in there. So when you put it back down, cover it up with a bit of paper. Don't do it on a windy day on a sandy drive. And I like to put a good dollop of grease inside my dust cover here, just for emergencies. Don't put too much in there, else you might find it difficult to put the cap back on, especially on the other side where you haven't got the little hole. So all of our parts now are scrupulously clean. One final thing to grease, and we're going to put a smear of fresh grease all the way over the spindle here, and that should help us slide the hub on. Our hub here, we know that our outer bearings are in excellent condition, and we've had a look in there and we can see this is new, and again the grease seal is new on there as well, so we're all okay with that. You can probably also see all that fresh grease that we packed in from the other side. So simply a case of sliding this on nice and gently with a little wiggle, and then picking up the outer bearing with the cleaned up spacer on there, and also take note of that little slot on there because that will only go on in one way. Okay, and we're pretty much all done there, just ready for the retaining nut. I think we'll just make sure there's plenty of grease in there, and then it's just a case of picking up our retaining nut and remembering which side you're on as to which way up it does up. You'll notice that it's the wrong way round to what we're used to here, so it's anti-clockwise to do it up. Use our adjustable spanner to nip it up, and what you want to do is do it so that it's pretty darn tight, not as tight as you can go, and then back a little bit, and then it's ready to tighten up. Now when we have either the disc on there or the wheel, we can just check it for the rock, and we want a tiny, almost imperceivable amount of play, but we certainly don't want it banging backwards and forwards. But we're ready now just to nip up the Allen key and one final bit out. So we can now push our speedo cable through, so take a firm grip from the back side of the backing plate, push it through, and I like to push it just slightly too far, just make sure there's nothing on the end there. And if you push it too far, it means you can actually put the cable through the square in the end of the dust cap like that before you push the dust cap on. Now, if your dust cap is worn out in any way, I suggest buying a new one, because the worst thing going is when your speedo cable starts to slip and you get a false reading up on the top. Okay, nice gentle taps here and roll it round, and you can see it just goes home, and it will ring with a slightly different tune when it's in. The last thing to do then is to put your little speedo cable E-clip back in. And of course, we stuck it here on the side of the tyre earlier. It is a fiddle. There's a tiny, tiny little slot on there. You really don't want to be dropping it. So we just push it into the little slot there. Keep your fingers nearby so that you don't drop it, and then just gently push it down and make sure it doesn't ping off into the distance. And that's it, job done. Simple as that. Well, if this is the first time that you've adjusted your wheel bearings, then you might just want to leave the dust cap loose, just push it on and not bother with the speedo cable until we've reassembled everything. And if you do need a reminder of how to put the disc back on and the caliper back on, then check out the relevant Just Camper how-to videos. In the meantime, we'll carry on reassembling. Okay, it's important to make sure that your wheel nuts are tight before you check your wheel bearings, and what you're looking to do is firmly grasp the tyre at 12 and 6 o'clock and rock, and the same again at 9 and 3 o'clock and rock. And the tiniest of movement is okay, but if you're finding that there's a definite clunk in there, you're going to have to take the wheel off, take the dust cap off, and just tighten up that main gripping block one more time. So that's it, we're done, the wheel bearings are fine.